Yo, what is up, guys? Shinobi here, back again with another video for you guys. And today we're taking a look at Vars 2's video on how to make Genshin Impact good again. And I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna take a lot to do that, considering that they have been going on for 5 years and haven't fixed a lot of the issues that the player base has been trying to go for. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like they gave up on Genshin Impact. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the game, they're just kind of just pushing it along, taking it out the back. And once they get done with it, it's just gonna be, hey, it is what it is. But we'll have to see. I feel like a lot of the issues that this game has could have been fixed and still can be fixed as of today. And if they were to fix them today, whether it'd be late, it'd be late as hell. But it would make the game so much better to play. The only reason I have to play Genshin Impact, and I haven't played it in over a year as of right now, is the story. And I'm kind of waiting for Shesnaya to come out so that I can finish Natla and finish Shesnaya, and then we can wait for Conria to come out. But even then, I might just wait until Conria comes out, or Celestia, or whatever. I'm not gonna lie, I might just do it all in one go. But we'll have to see. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, obviously, if you enjoyed the video, and I'm gonna leave the link to his video down below as well. I really do enjoy watching his videos every once in a while, so
throughout the past year,
let's get it.
Videos have been made about the current state of the game in more ways than one. One aspect in particular that's been the target of scrutiny is quality of life. More specifically, how Genshin's been lagging behind in quality of life.
They're so behind on quality of life, it's actually insane. There are games that were made before Genshin Impact that have better quality of life features than Genshin Impact today, and they're not even as popular. Some of those games, Epic 7, Bleach Brave Souls, and Summoner's War. Just to name a few. And hell, even some of the newer games, obviously, Wuwa, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, shit, Punishing Grey Raven, what's another one? Aether Gazer, like, so many games, like Genshin Impact is so behind, like, it's actually nuts.
An interesting dynamic in gacha games. Having played a great many of them myself, I don't think there's any genre that puts anywhere near the same amount of priority towards it. It takes years or even decades for mainstream games or MMOs to introduce quality of life features, but in gacha games you see a new thing being added every other month, it seems. Not a bad thing per se, but if you...
Yeah, but here's the thing too, is the reason why they have to implement these, it's the reason why they implement these faster in gacha games rather than to do them in like MMORPGs and all those other ones. It's because gacha games specifically rely on the player base actually being in the game and spending money in the game and playing the game, versus other games where it's more like that's not how they make money. Majority of the time, how other games make money versus how gacha games make money is two completely different things. So the quality of life, how easy it is for me to, go through my screens, how easy it is for me to build a character, how easy it is to me to clear a quest or, enjoy the story. But especially right now with people's time being taken up a lot by their jobs, with inflation and all the other stuff going on in the world, people are really cautious about what they spend their time on. So, the better quality of life you have in your game, especially a gacha game where they rely on you being in the game and playing it a lot, the better it be for your game. And unfortunately for Genshin Impact, the quality of life in the game, he's probably gonna go over it, but it's pretty bad right now.
Stick to a gacha game,
and it's really behind a lot of other games.
You'll find a number of important changes being added to the game for the sake of convenience. Genshin Impact's a bit slow in that regard, and it's only become more aggravating for the player base to have asked for things to be done for years.
When I say really behind, I mean really behind.
In my video on Genshin losing popularity, of the 5,000 or so comments, a huge portion of them were based on how the game's user experience ranks close to the worst among the mainstream titles, a statement that has grown more and more noticeable with every improvement competing titles have made. So for today, I want to make a video detailing as many changes I can think of that will improve.
Hell, two improvements that they didn't even make until their competitors made was obviously HSR. You could get stamina even when you're not playing the game, versus Honkai's. Was it? And then Withering Waves, obviously they added the artifact loadouts, which Genshin as of right now apparently still doesn't have. But the most important one being the resin cap, which I 160 for the longest time until Honkai Star Rail came out and said, yo, even when you're not playing the game, we're going to give you stamina so that you can actually, have to not spend money on the game for more resin or whatnot. Like, it's one of those things where Genshin Impact won't change their game until another competitor forces them to. And even with another competitor, they're not even... I think, me personally, they gave up on Genshin Impact a long time ago. I'm not going to lie. That's why they're not improving the game. It's basically their cash cow. I think that they gave up. That's why they're not improving the game at all. They got, Honkai Star Rail making them freaking bang bucks. They got Zenless Zone Zero making them money. They don't care about Genshin Impact anymore. They'll put like the bare minimum, like little bit just to keep them in there, but that's all they will do. And especially with the whole voice actor situation going on recently, that game, man, it's in a terrible state right now.
Improve the game's experience for everyone. After watching this, if you feel like I left out anything, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And I suppose while you're down there, I would appreciate a like and subscribe. Anyway, let's get started. Quite possibly the most requested feature of all time is artifact loadouts. It's practically a meme at this point where players are fiending for loadouts every time a new patch is implemented. I'll be frank, I don't think we even need them in the game. The only time I would see them being actively used is if there are characters who routinely swap between 2 or 3 different sets, but for the most part, the majority of the cast only uses one each, with alternative options being side grades at best.
Here's the thing. It's not that they need them in the game, it's that they need to put them in the game. You as a corporation need to make money. And granted, Genshin Impact still makes money. But they'd be making a lot more money if they listen to their player base. People have been asking for artifact loadouts for 5 years, and there still is no artifact loadouts. As far as I know, and I haven't played Genshin Impact in about a year or so, so maybe they added them, maybe they didn't. Though, I'll be honest, I think they still haven't because I would have heard if they did. Trust me, I would have heard because it would have been the biggest thing on Twitter is, oh, the devs listened that they finally gave us artifact loadouts after 5 years of us asking for them. Like, the fact that the player base has been asking for this thing and the corporation is not actively trying to put that thing in the game, but then you got another corporation like Withering Waves, barely out small company, and they put that shit in just for shits and giggles without people even asking for it. Like, it's embarrassing at this point. It is an embarrassment. How this feature that people have been asking for 5 years isn't in the game, the same with a skip button on dialogue, is beyond me, bro. Beyond me.
Realistically, if they were to implement this, it wouldn't really be used as much, since unlike HSR for example, units don't have dual purposes like how you can go follow-up attack or break on Himeko, or how you can go pure fiction relics or normal DPS relics on a couple Air Edition characters. I suppose if we had more endgame content variety, that could merit the need for loadouts, but at the moment, there's none. So why do people clamor for it to be implemented so aggressively? Memes aside, it's less about the feature itself and more about optics. The fact that it's been heavily requested for years and still neglected gives off the impression of the devs not really caring to adhere to player feedback, so adding this will be less of an actual quality of life mechanic and more of a way to lend credence to Hoyo's intent. Next change is another heavily requested one, dialogue skip button. Much as I'm sure it would be nice for every player to be a story lover, even as someone who studied narrative storytelling and video.
Let me tell you right now, I'm the biggest lore junkie for Genshin Impact. One of the biggest lore junkies. I probably don't make videos on it a lot, but I watch a lot of videos on it a lot, especially when it comes to Conria. Whenever I see a story or something having Conria in it, or Dainslift, I'm in that bitch. But so much of the other stories in this game, or just so much of the story sometimes, has way too much yapping. Like, has anybody played, like, the R&R quest is like probably infamous for how garbage it was, but I didn't even play through the whole entire thing because it was that bad. It was that freaking bad, bro. Like, bro, there needs to be a skip button. They need to do what Wu was doing, even though I know they won't, and have a summary. So if you skip through it, there's at least a summary telling you what's going on, especially if it's not really important. Because I'm not gonna lie, there's so much yap in this game that doesn't matter. It's actually insane. Not to mention Paimon's annoying as hell to listen to, so nobody wants to listen to that either. But, like, bro, people have been asking for this for a while. Actually insane.
Game storytelling in college, sometimes I just don't feel like sitting through paragraphs of what is ultimately meaningless banter between characters for hours on end, like the R&R quest. If this was a movie or anime where we could see tons of emotions and actions or visualization, that would be a different story, but you'd be lucky to see any character moving around or being expressive during conversations. One more issue is that several gameplay elements or areas on the map are locked behind said tedious dialogue, like the R&R quest. One of the biggest things players were happy to see in Wuwa is the option to get a TLDR of what's happening in the cutscene before skipping it, greatly appeasing those who, while they may sit through the main storyline due to its importance, don't really care for side quest story.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to do that. They need to do that, bro. They need Genshin Impact to do that, because I'm gonna be real with you. I'm going to be real with you. A lot of Genshin Impact story, especially the R&R quests, it's just meaninglessly. It's not even like story stuff either that actually matters. There's a lot of yapping. And it'd be so much better if they were to add a feature like that where it just gives you a summary of everything that's actually important. It'd be so much better. Because one of the most annoying things with Genshin Impact story, and even HSR has this problem, is they'll have a character sitting in the idle position that they're in, whether it be standing in one place or another, and doing absolutely nothing while text runs on the bottom. It's just so immersion breaking. It's just like, bro, can we do something? Can we do something? Like, please. But, I don't know. I guess it's too much to ask, especially from this game for whatever reason. But, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It feels like it's some of those things that's like common sense, but they don't want to do it for whatever reason.
And whatnot, like the R&R quest. Additionally, the most annoying cases of unskippable dialogue would definitely be the ones where the characters don't even talk, yet for some reason you can't just mash click and get through everything. Like the fucking R&R quest.
Yep.
Please, Hoyo, just give us the option to skip stuff. People who like reading and listening can still do so, while those who just want to get to the new area or something can be able to in a reasonable amount of time. Third change, can we please take on the same weekly boss more than once a week? HSR, CCT, and Wuwa also have a 3-time claim limit, but they have the decency to let you fight the same boss 3 times. Genshin still, to this day, only lets you fight them once a week, which means anytime a new weekly boss comes out and the character needs their materials, you physically are unable to max out that character for upwards of a month. You need 12 materials, I believe, or was it 9? I'm pretty sure it's 12, considering it starts at level 7. Bosses drop 1 to 2 materials per week. So yeah, people weren't even able to max out Mavuika until like February, which is kind of insane.
Now you compare that to Zenless Zone Zero, Honkai Star Rail, and Withering Waves, or hell, even Bleach Brave Souls, where you can build a character in a day. A day. You know how insane that is? You can build a character in all these other gacha games in probably a day to a week, but you gotta wait a month to get one character even fully built or even decently built in freaking Genshin Impact. Like, it's actually insane. And honestly, I know why they do it. It's for money reasons, and it's also to keep you immersed in the game, because they want you to basically build your life around Genshin Impact, which I know there's a lot of people that do. And he's probably going to talk about it, but they also need to get rid of that whole system where, you can only get certain talent materials on certain days. They need to get rid of that shit. And once again, it's one of those things, again, where they only do it for 2 reasons. Money reasons, and also to make sure that you build your whole life around Genshin Impact. They want you to think about this game all day, every single day. They want you to be like, okay, I gotta do this on this day. I gotta do this on this day. Okay, this is the day for this. Like, it's actually nuts. And with no other gacha game that I've played, whether it be, Zenless Zone Zero, Genshin Impact, Withering Waves, Bleach Brave Souls, Summoner's War, Soccer Spirits, fucking that old Naruto Blazing game that died a while back in 2016 didn't have this problem. Like, holy crap, bro. Actual insanity.
I mean, not saying they have to, Mavuika one-shotted everything even at 177. But again, quality of life, they're not game-changing features, but that's all the more reason why they're important to add. It doesn't take a lot to do this.
It doesn't.
Like when Asian moms...
It's not going to cost them a dime to put It doesn't cost them a dime to put any of these features in. I just want to let y'all know that right now. It's not going to cost them a penny to put any of this quality of life that players have been asking for 5 years. It's just that they don't need to, because the players are going to complain about it, and then they're going to spend $1,000 on Mavuika's banner the next day. It's like, you want the problem to be fixed, you gotta make a stand, bro. You gotta make a stand. And unfortunately, Honkai Star Rail, once again, is probably going down that same route. It's looking like it's going down that same route where people will complain about certain features. The features won't get fixed, but then they'll drop $1,000 on a banner. It's insane. but it's also the reason why shit ain't getting fixed. Because what incentive do they have to fix it?
Randomly fix you a plate of fruit without you asking for it. It's a gesture to show that they care about this stuff. Change number 4. Remove the fucking day of the week. I hate this so much. I'm sure most people have a schedule or
I
routine
called
that
it.
they plan to
I
spend their
called it.
lesson on each day, but I can't be bothered to do that. There are so many times.
And once again, they want you to build your whole life around this game. That's why they want you to make a schedule around what days these talents are in. Versus, once again, any other game that's come out in the last 5 years, where you could build a character in a day. A day. It takes you a month to build some of these other characters in Genshin. It's actually insane how behind they are.
Where I want to work on a character on a Tuesday, only to find out the materials are a Monday-Thursday thing, forcing me to have to wait 2 days to actually get to it, but then by Thursday I forget and use my resin on something else. Why is this even in the game? Sure, it may have been a fun little gimmick to show the passage of time, especially during lockdown when most people lost their sense of time, but can they just please allow us?
They did it for money reasons, because you can only farm those artifact talent, or not artifact talents, but you can only farm those talents on certain days. So that means you gotta use all your resin on those certain days. If you run out, guess what you gotta do? Spend primo gems, which means you gotta spend money. This game is literally a cycle of just... It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. This game is Mr. Krabs incarnate.
To farm whatever materials we want no matter what day. It's just meaningless time gating for no reason. Change number 5. Condensed resin to be used on boss domains. This is kind of a personal request of mine. It's become muscle memory at this point for me to log on every day and instantly go to the crafting bench to condense my resin. That way I only have to do an artifact or a material domain 5 times instead of 10. Several times I autopiloted and condensed my resin, forgetting today I was supposed to farm ascension materials that drop from a boss. Except you can't, despite world bosses also costing 40 resin. They're the same energy cost, so if they can also let us exchange a condensed resin to claim them, that would be great. Change 6. Remote access. Even though I'm a huge Paper Mario and Pokemon Coliseum fan, I really hate games that don't let you save wherever you...
I'm not gonna lie. How every other game has the same option where you can craft materials anywhere, but Genshin Stars implemented this after 5 years is beyond me, bro. And hell, even Pokemon. You can access your PC through your bag now or something like that. You don't have to go to the Pokemon Center to access your PC anymore. Yeah, the option is there, obviously, if you want to go and do that. But the fact that you can't access your materials or your bench from anywhere after this long is beyond me, man.
1. There's probably a logistical reason for it, maybe to save memory or whatever by not letting you save in any location, but for something essential like the crafting bench, having to teleport to a town every time you want to craft something is rather tiresome, to put it lightly. I suppose the same can be said for expeditions and claiming commission rewards too. Look, I love Catherine too, best NPC world.
I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the features and the reason why, in the quality of life, and the reason why I don't build my characters all the way, like from the fact that you can only get certain materials on certain days, you can only get boss materials every other, day. Your crafting material block, you gotta teleport straight. Like, it's just all a hassle. It's the reason why I've been using the same built Casa HUD that I've been using since I went through Mondstadt when I first started playing this game. Like, I'm pretty sure if I was to go into Genshin Impact right now, he's still the same way that I left him. Because, like, just trying to build him properly and all the way to the max, it's so tiresome. It's like, once again, it's one of those things where I was talking about in the beginning, with quality of life. The better your quality of life is, the easier it is for people to get to stuff and do the things they want to do. And the more people will play that game. Like, once again, I can build a character in Withering Waves, Honkai Star Rail, and Zenless Zone Zero in a day. And it won't feel like it's like a giant hassle. Versus Genshin Impact, the whole thing just feels like a chore. And that's really bad.
But when every other game lets you claim stuff remotely, it's a huge pain to have to keep going back every single time. If they want to meet us in the middle, maybe make it so we can craft a one-time use remote bench, like if it was Minecraft. I wouldn't mind spending 4 iron or wood per day to make a crafting bench. If anything, that would add a bit more fun to the game. Once a week, I usually take a few minutes to collect like 20 crystal flies to keep my supply of condensed resin good to go. But point being, please give us remote access to these things. It may sound overly spoiled or entitled for me to complain about taking 10 more seconds to teleport to a town, but it's less about Genshin not
It's not a spoiled rent title for you to do this because this is a billion-dollar company. I hate when people say this because there should be no like this. All the stuff that he's asking for has been stuff that has been put in other games for free. This doesn't cost a dime to put in. The reason they don't put it in is because they have no incentive to. They have zero incentive to. Because they know that players will complain about this and then still drop $1,000 on a banner right afterwards. They have no incentive to change because the player base won't punish them for not listening to them. Like, once again, going back to the artifact loyalty, y'all been asking for that for 5 years. Still ain't in, but oh well. Once again, one of those things.
Not doing it, and more about everyone else doing it that forces Genshin to have to follow along. If every other game gives you that convenience, it makes the games that don't have it feel that much more tedious. That's why quality of life is so important. It's not the feature itself that people notice, rather lack thereof. They emphasize that a lot during my UX classes. People don't really notice something when it's working well, they only notice it when it's not working or when it's not there at all. Change 7. General Material Conversion. Genshin gives you the ability to convert attribute stones and weekly boss materials into other materials of the same category, but it would be nice if they could do that for all materials. Being able to convert, say, prosperity talent mats to gold mats, or kindling to contention, justice to equity, freedom to ballot. On that note, weekly boss materials can only convert to other materials that drop from the same boss. If they don't have any intention of allowing the same weekly boss to be taken on thrice per week, then the option to convert other boss materials to that one would be nice. I'm sitting on like 100 Devolin mats that have been collecting dust on account of Hoyo not releasing a Moss deck character in years. For that matter, a general material substitute would be helpful too. HSR has those tiers of whatever thingamadoohickeys that can be used in place of any essential materials you have. If they could bring those to Genshin, I would greatly appreciate it. Having mentioned Devolin, that brings me to our next change. More of a new feature instead of a change, but I'd like them to add a special challenge difficulty for every weekly boss.
I'm not gonna lie, this would be better in game mode. Having this with like a tier list to see you can clear it faster. Having this with a tier list would be the best end game that this game has ever gotten. I would do this over the Abyss. This would actually force me, even with how garbage building characters is in this game, this would actually make me want to actually build some characters up because now I have a reason to actually build my characters. Right now, I don't have a reason at all because I don't care about the Spiral Abyss. Because honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't know. The Spiral Abyss isn't really that engaging. A lot of it is the Abyss trying to waste your time so that you can't clear it in time. But something like this is like the holograms in Wuwa. It'd be perfect. It would be freaking perfect for them to add something like this.
Not for materials or anything, but maybe for leaderboards or bragging rights or something. Even though the newer weekly bosses like the Knave and Primal Fire can be reasonably difficult if you don't know the mechanics, the majority of these bosses go down like lead balloons.
I'm about to say, the one problem with this, though, is a lot of people just one-tap these bosses, though. That's the only thing. So leaderboards really, like, it'd be like seconds, milliseconds. Because, oh, actually, no. Now I think about it, no. The reason I say no now is because I'm thinking about it, it's pay to win at that point. Because if you have one guy who's C6 as a character, and can one-tap the boss versus somebody with like a C1 or C0 character who can't one-tap it, it's just, nah. It'd be a great feature, don't get me wrong, but you'd have to use, here's how they fix that. With the challenge bosses, if they wanted to do something like this, give them demo characters. So that everybody's on the same playing field. That's the only reason. That's the only way they can do it without it being like a pay-to-win thing. Because right now, with the amount of people that have C6 characters that could just one-tap a boss versus the ones who have like a C0 character, it's not going to be fair. It'd be an event for whales if you really want to think about it.
With a halfway decent team. In fact, you could straight up skip half of their mechanics by one-tapping them right away. Basically, I'm asking for Genshin to do the tactical hologram treatment, make the same boss but make them insanely difficult, maybe for extra currency or something we can work towards. Something player anxiety, oh to hell with that. Kind of a shame too, given most of these bosses have elaborate sequences and phases. We just don't care though cause we nuke everything in one hit. For the next change, I say this because Honkai Star Rail has this. Every artifact set should be available in the Strongbox the instant they release. I get that Hoyo doesn't want us to stock up on new artifacts without ever stepping foot in the new domain, but the rate at which new sets come in is so painstakingly slow. In defense of Hoyo, they have been speeding things up.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't understand the reason why they keep everything locked. Like, once again, everything with this game just feels like it's locked behind either a paywall or some bullshit for no reason. And it's just one of those things where it doesn't cost them a dime to just put that stuff in the game. And it actually have people wanting to play the game. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Up a little, but remember when we didn't get version 1 artifacts until version 3, or version 2 artifacts until version 4? Considering how mind-numbing the artifact grind is, if they could let us convert bricks into new pieces that, let's be real, will also be bricks, that would alleviate the grind a little bit. If you're interested in seeing all the artifact changes I had in mind...
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. They need you to play the game a bunch because they want to show their chart to the shareholders that people are actually still playing the game. They need you in this game as much as possible, so they're going to make it to where you have to be in the game as much as possible to do what you want to do. They're not going to make it fun for you so that you can be able to play other games. They want you to only play Genshin Impact. It is what it is, boys.
I actually do have a recent video on it for you to watch. Again, more of a feature than a change, but something that would be fun to try out is an infinite spiral abyss mode where players can progressively go deeper and deeper into floors 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, so on and so forth, with exponentially ramping difficulty to see how far they can get. Just like the weekly boss challenge mode, I think a big reason why people feel so bored in the game lately is that once you do all the events and stuff, there really is no reason to keep playing or working towards anything. Even casual players need something to want to build towards. Right now, there just isn't an incentive to...
Like, for me, I'm a story guy. I like the lore, but I also like playing the game because obviously, why else would I be building my characters? And there's not really any reason, like, once again, I don't have a reason outside of maybe the Abyss, which I could care less about, to actually build my characters and try them against stuff. I don't really have a reason. So it's just once again one of those things where why I don't play the game to this day is because obviously the story, Fontaine was peak with the last one that they did. I love Nahida's story as well. They've been doing good with the story, but it's like outside of that, nothing. And I know that Genshin Impact is a casual game. It's not a competitive game by any means. It's not a sweaty game like Wuon. Even then, it's one of those things. But thanks for the sub, by the way. But I don't know. It's just one of those things,
to do anything other than the bare minimum, and so adding content, even if there's no beneficial reward to it, can be enough to make players want to keep going further with their units. Or they could do something really simple, perhaps common EXP materials, or maybe even trophies to add to their account. Whatever the case, I'll be begging Hoyo to add more endgame content until they eventually do. Taking a break from new stuff for a moment, I want to bring
this is definitely
Cinnabar Spindle, Festering Desire, Ultimate Overlord's Mega Magic Sword.
Bro, how they don't have this? Like, bro, the problem with this, I'm not gonna lie, the problem with this is the fact that some of these events have lore in them. This wouldn't be I wouldn't care about this if they didn't have lore, though. To be honest, they should still be permanent events either way because they have limited weapons in them. But these events have lore that is important to the story, and they're not permanent. How do you even do that?
Albedo's unique 2-part story, Unreconciled Stars, Labyrinth Warriors.
I've never played through any of these. And the only reason I even know about them is because when I watch lore videos, they talk about these quests that aren't permanent. Like Scaramouche, of course, saying that the sky is fake. Like hinting towards, I would assume, the fact that Teyvat is under a false sky. It's just like, bro. And let alone, like, there's just so much lore that's in these, and they just don't have them as permanent, bro. It's insane.
Either. Genshin has a ton of great flagship events over the years, some that contributed a ton to the continuity and/or gameplay, but none of those are accessible anymore, which is a huge loss of content in a game that desperately could use it. Honkai Star Rail, WUA, and I believe ZZZ let you play through flagship events at any time you want, even being able to collect rewards from them. Granted, you still miss out on the time-limited rewards, which usually contain refinement mats for the event weapons, but not being able to access old events really sucks in a game that doesn't do reruns. Most gachas have reruns for events specifically for this purpose, to allow players who weren't around back when they first came out to experience them, or for those who didn't get to finish all the quests to finally do so. HSR even lets you buy old event light codes. Hoyo needs to do this for Genshin. If anything, it could be helpful in making filler versions more worthwhile, running the flagship event but also rerunning an old one. Or they can do a part 2 type thing, reuse the same assets but write up some new dialogue or add new items. For the next change, I want character choice banner rotation. The Chronicle Wish is a start, credit where it's due, but when HSR made it so you can select from a pool of version 1 units to replace the 50/50 losses, I can't fathom why they didn't think of that for Genshin. Though we were promised more standard banner units and even just got one recently in Mizuki, letting us choose 3 characters to replace the 9 we can roll in the standard banner would be a great way for people to get their hands on old characters, especially since we're getting to a point where Hoyo is forced to do reruns for multiple units at a time to fit everyone in. I would prefer they allow it to be thrown into the Acquaint Fate pool instead of just for that banner, but I also didn't mind meeting them halfway. Getting constellations of old characters can be a way for them to keep up with the modern ones. C3, C4 Yelan, for example, would certainly be a caliber above C0, C1. On that note, while we're talking about pulling, a very generous change for players would be the ability to acquire subsequent constellations of a character through Star Glitter. Wuthering Waves has been doing this for their sequence bands, and I think it's a nice gesture for 2 reasons. 1, the vast majority of players aren't able to get their hands on more than 1 copy of a 5-star character if they're free to play, unless they save up a ton and/or are extremely lucky. At the same time, recently anyway, Hoyo's been tailoring 5-star characters to really pressure you to get their first and second constellations, which are financially inaccessible for most people. 2, it basically introduces a pity for the pity. I don't have the exact link off the top of my head, but someone shared that they lost every single 50/50 since the beginning of the game, which put them deadass at the bottom 0% of players in 50/50 luck. Having this would make it so if you—
Which is actual insanity. I don't think I've ever gone that bad when it comes to luck, bro. I don't think I've ever gone that bad when it's come to luck. Just losing every single 50/50 from the beginning, that's crazy. Especially since, like, you gotta worry about the weapon banner, too, because the weapon banner isn't guaranteed like it is in WoW. And I'm not gonna lie to you. Just having the fact that I can think about in WoW that I can summon on a weapon banner and I know I won't lose it to anything else. I'll get what's on there. I'll get what's advertised, essentially. It just takes so much stress off of you, bro, because you don't gotta be like, oh, man, I gotta get this weapon and the character, you know. You just know that you can get the weapon because it's guaranteed. So, I mean, that's just a whole different thing. Me personally, I think that they should have just made the first fit. Like, I think me personally, when it comes to this game or gacha games in general, that they should just remove the 50/50 system entirely until after you get the character at least once. Just remove the whole entire thing entirely. Like, Wu was already halfway there. If they were to remove the whole 50/50 system entirely, or if they were to keep it only after you get your first copy, it'd make things so much better. It'd make things so much better. Sure, probably you wouldn't be able to get as much money out of it because obviously, you know, you can't lose your 50/50 on your first time if they do something like that. But people still see 6 carriers. People still want to go ahead and get their character as strong as possible. So, I don't know, it'd just be a benefit for people who don't want to, you know, drop $1,000 on a banner.
lose 10 50/50s in a row, you could eventually get compensated a 5-star constellation. It's just something I think most gachas already do, not just WUA. I recall seeing them in Blue Archive as well. Second to last change, Resin Overflow System. Very simple one. I know they recently bumped up the cap to like 200 so that we don't have to redo it within 24 hours, and unlike WUA, Genshin has the option to condense resin so we effectively have a cap of 400 instead of 200, but giving players overflow energy at a slower rate is becoming more widely implemented these days. For that reason, I expect Hoyo to do the same for Genshin. Sometimes players just have to skip a few days, whether for vacation, burnout, or for whatever reason. Knowing they're salvaging at least a portion of resin helps alleviate the FOMO a bit.
And you know what's funny is, I think I mentioned this before, but they didn't implement the whole thing where you could have 200 resin until after Honkai Star Rail put in the feature to where you could actually not play the game for a while and, you know, still have stamina. And I'm pretty sure WoW had this feature like on day 1. I might be wrong, but WoW had that feature like day 1 where I could hop up a WoW for like a couple of days and I have a whole bunch of stamina backed up along with the stamina that's, you know, you already get, so that I don't have to worry about spending money on stamina. Not that I ever would, anyways. But still, once again, it's one of those things that, like, I feel like, once again, a lot of the stuff that he's talking about in this video could easily be implemented, and it just takes zero effort to do so. But they just don't want to do it because they're already getting the money. They're already getting what they want, which is money, because that's the only thing that these corporations care about. So why do they bother to put this stuff in if they don't need to? Especially when the players, once again, whenever they be doing their boycotts and whatnot, they go back and spend $1,000, $2,000, C6 all these characters 2 weeks later, after they were saying that, oh, we won't play the game if they don't implement this. It's like one of those things where the only way this stuff gets implemented is if the player base shows that if it doesn't get implemented, there'll be consequences. Because at the end of the day, these games can't run without the people. Like, we have more power than these games or these corporations give us. My bad. We have more power than what these corporations think they have, bro. Like, we are the player base. We get to control whether these games are successful or not. We are the market. But for some reason, we keep acting like these corporations can control everything and whatnot. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, if the Genshin Impact fan base was to stand up and actually stand for something, this stuff would have been fixed 3 years ago. But because they keep just eating up whatever they throw at them, it is what it is, you know? And honestly, I feel like they gave up on Genshin Impact a long time ago, which is another reason why they're not implementing these features. They're kind of just taking whatever money to get in Genshin Impact, put a little bit into Genshin Impact, and throw the rest at whatever games that they got coming out. It is what it is, but, and I hope I'm wrong, but from what I've seen so far, there's a pattern, and Honkai Star Wars kind of going down that same route, unfortunately.
Lastly, and one of the biggest ones, give us better multiplayer incentives. I said this before, I'll say it again, Genshin should have been an MMORPG. I haven't touched multiplayer basically at all in the past few years, mostly because everything is easier to do by yourself and there's also not much of a reason to. Occasionally, events might encourage you to play with others or even mandate you to, but generally speaking there's no practical incentive behind it. Something that could serve as maybe an extra layer of progression, or heck, even something like a raid boss that can be taken on by multiple parties of 4. I might just be looking at this from too much of an MMO point of view, but multiplayer's been a sore spot for the game, especially for casual players who want to hang out with friends. Adding things you can only access in multiplayer would be a big boon for the game's staying power. So anyway, there are at least a dozen more quality of life changes or content features we could talk about, but I think I'll go with the 15 I chose for now. Genshin still has the potential to be a frontrunner for the gacha industry, but for them to restore player goodwill, they can't just do the bare minimum. It's all about going above and beyond, whether or not those features are actually conducive to a better experience. Essentially, it demonstrates attention to detail and a desire to improve the game in whatever way they can, without having to be told. If you look at other gacha...
Yeah, but here's the problem. They won't do that because they're already getting what they want, which is money. If the players stop putting money into the game, actually start playing other competitors' games, then Genshin Impact will be forced, obviously, to do some other stuff, which is why, once again, when Wonder Woman Waves came out, or, whatnot, start getting players to start, Genshin started losing a little bit of their player base, and Honkai Star Rail did the same thing with all the stuff that they were doing. It's only when Genshin Impact gets pressured that they decide to put features that they should have put in 5 years ago.
games either now or in the past, they would usually implement quality of life features soon after players have been clamoring for them, or they would just implement them without us asking for it in the first place. But I feel like for Genshin, they're only compelled to do so if the pressure from other competitors becomes too great. But that's not the right mindset to have. You don't want to follow what other people are doing, you want to be the person trailblazing everything. In any case, what do you guys think about my list? Do you agree or disagree?
Hey, beautiful list. Best list ever, and honestly, I think, I'm gonna be real with you, people have been asking for this stuff for a very long time, including myself. But once again, it's one of those things where none of this will get implemented until the player base stops simping for Hoyoverse and Dawei and actually, says, hey, if you don't put this feature in, I'm gonna not play your game. It's just one of those things where it's the Genshin Impact, player base needs to stand up and, stop glazing Dawei and actually be like, hey, why isn't this shit put in that we've been asking for? If you don't put this in, we're going to play something else. And honestly, they should play something else. I'm going to be real. Genshin Impact is a fun game, but there's way better games, way better experiences out there. Like, I feel like once you start playing other gachas, or hell, other games outside the gacha, game space, you just discover how garbage this game can be right now. And how it could have been better. And it should be better. But it won't get better because they have no incentive to. And until players stand up, this game won't ever change. We'll have to see, though. But beautiful video. I'll leave a link down to his video down below. I want to know your guys' thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.